Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Conway Joint Select Board Personnel and Finance Committee and potentially Capital Improvement Committee as well. For Monday, April 7th, I'll call the meeting to order. Since we have some guests here, we're going to move down to new business. The second item on new business is the discussion and vote on holding a car cruise show on Main Street on the Saturday before
Festival of the Hills.
Festival of the Hills.
No face involved.
So we have Mike Kirklonis here. Hello, Mike. And obviously we have our chief as well. So Mike, you want to kind of just give a little...
The classic car scene has been pretty popular lately. In a lot of the towns closer to Worcester, they shut down like Main Street, have a cruise night right on Main Street. And I wanted to propose this last year, and I talked to Chief Bates last year, but we just didn't have enough time to do it. So we're trying to get a head start on it this year. I think Conway's in a perfect location because you can divert traffic both ways around Main Street. And it'll be the first time out. I think we'll get a good turnout. I've talked to the chief about how we lay out the cars and so on like that. I talked to Barbara at the inn, and she would love it because it's going to bring business into her. I thought that because the food trucks and stuff will be here for the festival, I'd get in touch with them and have some food over here on the Main Street. And then I've got a DJ, guy that works for me, lined up to do that as well. I think it could be a pretty good event for the town. We'd charged entry fee to come in, only to pay for the officers direct traffic. We're going to need one on each end, or maybe three. So we're not necessarily doing it to raise money per se. Maybe next year we can incorporate it into, if it's a hit, we can incorporate it into the Festival of the Hills and raise it for scholarship. But I think it's a great location for it.
So the entry fee would just be for the cars who were cruising?
Just for the cars. We're not going to give out trophies or anything like that. Maybe next year we could, but really just to raise enough money to pay for Chief Bates's people to direct traffic.
Yeah, because the idea is to close it down at Elm Street and Shelburne Falls Road. So they would go Elm Street up to Reed's Bridge, back down Shelburne Falls Road. There is a plan that I worked out with Mike. If there's a tractor trailer if you get a big tractor trailer, they're not going to be able to make that swing easily, especially if cars are coming the other way. So we've talked about leaving ample room to get emergency vehicles through there if they need to, or a tractor trailer. So that's why we would have a detail officer on either end, so that they can make up that. They'd be in radio communication, they'd be able to get somebody by there. The idea is we're going to park cars at an angle on the police station side, so the north side, and then if room allows and we have enough cars, then we'd park them on the south side, kind of nose to tail, hoping that there'd be enough room.
Where would the detour go for those needing on 116?
Excuse me?
If we shut off 116 between Elm and Shelburne, where would the detour go?
Oh, I thought I explained that one. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
They would go down Elm Street to
Elm
Reed's
Street.
Bridge to Shelburne Falls.
Okay, got it.
Sorry, I thought I let him. I thought this was like a trick. I'm like,
No, I thought you were talking about...
No, you did.
I thought you were talking about
Yeah,
the loop
no.
you would do.
No, the cars aren't
Yeah,
doing the loop.
the cars are going down 116.
Right,
The
okay.
cars are going to be stationary. There's
Yeah.
no parade route. There's no nothing.
Got it.
There is a process that I have to go through with Mass DOT in order to gain a permit to allow us to close that down. I am in the middle of that process. It's kind of more arduous than I thought it was going to be, but I have started it, and some of the things that they're looking for are letters from the important people, like from the select board, myself, the fire chief. So I've been talking with Mike about maybe just coming up with like a type of letter. I know for the parade, it appears, because I got all that paperwork sent to me from Mass DOT, is that there was one letter and they kind of changed Kenny and the fire chief, but it was the exact same thing. I like to personalize it a little bit, so I change it up just a little, but if there's something you guys want to put pen to paper and come up with something, good. If not, Mike and I can certainly come up with something that, you know, you guys proofread, we can have
Send
you.
us a draft.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
I know you
definitely.
guys are very busy, so, I mean, it's something that Mike and I have talked about, and maybe reaching out to somebody from the Festival of the Hills Committee to be like, yeah, I think this would be an important.
I would definitely do that. I think it's a great idea. I agree with you. It's a perfect location, Conway is. We already have a ton of people in our town that have cars that could be in this show. I would definitely put it in the Currents, just to notify people that'll be coming up. My only concern is that how close it is to the Festival of Hills. Will it impact anything with the Festival of Hills as far as like, you know, they're usually setting up ahead of time. And it would be cool, like Mike said, to maybe incorporate both, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it
Forward.
might actually be like a good advertisement opportunity for Festival of the Hills. You get a bunch of people in the weekend, you know, the week before, but
That's a good
I know the
idea.
chair of the festival committee, and yes, certainly reach out.
Well,
to-
it would be literally the day before, right? Because festival's
Yeah,
on
it'd be that
Sunday.
Saturday.
Oh, it would be that Saturday. Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Even
Gotcha.
better.
And our
So,
thought
yeah.
was, is if there are people that are coming in to set up, they're gonna be setting up primarily in the ball
Right,
field.
yeah, okay.
Or
Oh,
on
I
Academy
thought it
Hill.
was the week before, but actually I think that Saturday is almost even
So the
better.
only thing is,
Yeah.
I had not heard before about charging an entry fee. Is this being done
It would be a
under?
donation. It would be
No, I
like-
understand that, but is there an organization? How are you?
I mean, I would assume that whatever your costs are for your maintenance detail, you bill this organization,
We
right?
can, we can
Yeah.
come up with
Or
something
come up
if
with
we
a
need
deal.
to. I mean,
Yeah.
We'll work out something.
the other towns do it, they have a car club, and that's all it is.
Right, okay, so yeah, if you have just because it, I would say it's not officially a town thing, right? This is
Correct.
Right, good, okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
so we don't have to
So we don't have to
worry
about it.
about that,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I think the more that you can add to kind of like the allure of the weekend is.
Oh, I think it'd
is
be.
great.
And then
yeah.
we'll already have porta potties and stuff, right, just in case.
And I think I think we need to have a trial run of this,
Mhm.
so I think this would be a good year. Last year when Mike came to me, it was way too close, and I know Mass DOT wasn't able to push it, so I was starting a little bit earlier this year.
I mean, I would love to see it. I personally
Yeah, I'm in favor.
love car shows.
It'd be good.
So,
There's also talk of maybe Barb getting her whatever type of house band that she can get, maybe get them out on the porch, and, you know, the DJ that Mike's got
Yep.
could be down by the library and, or just this side of the library of Elm Street, because it'll be closed off right there. You know, be that side music, that music, be food.
Yeah, I think
Should
it's.
Fun
Mike
galore.
coordinate with Hazel just for festival?
I mean, you
of
guys
Hills
should
stuff?
definitely check in with the festival
Your meeting's on the
committee, but
16th of April, if I recall, right? So I was gonna come to that.
Mike's on now.
The Festival Hills
Yeah,
committee, yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
so, yeah.
It doesn't I don't want it to be any burden on the Festival of the Hills in any way,
Yeah.
shape, or form.
I think it can only
there's-
add to the,
This is something
Yeah.
that me and my car friends can come up with and make it happen. I think next year, if it's a hit, and I really think it's gonna be, then let's incorporate it into the festival and
Yeah.
then and try to raise some money for that. Because we're not doing it to raise any money, like I said, just to pay
Mhm.
for the details.
Details,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the hours we're looking to do this is 2 to 6.
Mhm.
That way there's not, it's all during daylight,
Mhm.
and there's no evening flashlights, all that garbage.
I think this is a great idea.
I'm totally.
And we could also, I was just thinking of other things we could add on to the
I know.
Festival of Hills, like a dog show.
Okay, now you're, because Chris has so much free time
Yeah.
to organize kennel club.
No, obviously, both of us are totally in favor. We'll,
Yeah.
you know, you want to draft a letter of support, we'll sign it.
We'll come up with something.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
Great.
Mike, I'll probably reach out to you maybe tomorrow or
Sure.
this week anyway. So.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Great idea.
All right, sounds
Yeah.
good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, since we're here, we'll continue on. The discussion and vote on request for traffic count study.
That's this.
All right, so this is FERCog. So it's one of two counts. The request detail is either a 24-hour roadway count, which will measure volume, class, and speed, or the intersection turning movement count.
What exactly is the FERCog asking us?
It was in that email. I'm not really,
Basically, I think this is a free service. The way I read
It
it,
is,
it's a
yeah.
free service that they're offering to
Yeah.
the town. And I think Veronique's just putting it on your plate to say, hey, is this something you'd be interested in us doing?
Sure, if it's free, right? I mean, I think that the count type, we should do the roadway count, not any intersection count. We don't really have problems with
Yeah, that's
intersections.
The only intersection could be, calling question is Shelburne Falls Road.
Shelburne,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's a pretty busy intersection coming down Academy Hill, or
Like
not
the
Academy
only-
Hill, but
Baptist.
Baptist Hill.
Baptist, yeah. Yeah, but it's never backed up either.
It's never been an issue.
Yeah, but it would be nice to see how many, especially with 116, how many vehicles and the size of the vehicles that we actually have moving down on a daily basis. So
Yeah, and I read this wrong initially, and Veronique corrected me. I thought it was a speed study that they would do throughout town,
Mhm.
which would be great because people are coming to me about putting speed limits on roads. And right now, to my knowledge, there's 2 roads in this town that have speed limits that are
that are
legitimate.
posted.
And that is Route 116
Mhm.
and Whately Road.
Yeah.
All the speed limits on Shelburne Falls Road, as far as I'm concerned, I have no idea if they're accurate. Usually we get something from Mass DOT that certifies the road and the speed. I haven't seen any publication of that one whatsoever. But when I took over, I did find Whately Road at 116.
I know we did have resident concerns about Emerson Hollow.
Emerson,
Yeah.
yeah, because people
Um,
kept shooting up there as like a shortcut.
But I
We
mean,
have
that's a dirt
bigger
road.
concerns than that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does
You
say
would know.
speed on here.
Like Main Poland Road, North Poland
Mm,
Road,
yeah.
I've gotten some complaints on. Shelburne Falls Road is a perfect road that I'd
Yeah.
like to see if we can get it legitimized.
Yeah.
If it's not, Ron Sweet said that he had documentation, or he saw documentation, but he can't seem to locate it right now. He's still looking.
Okay.
So this is basically a free traffic study that the FERCog is going to do for us.
Yeah.
So
Great.
where Google Maps gets their miles per hour then. Because it says on Shelburne 45.
Oh, does it really?
I'm pretty sure it's 45.
Parts of Shelburne do say,
That's
yeah,
funny.
45.
But is parts of Shelburne Falls Road actually 45?
No, it's not posted that way anywhere that
Well, I know, Emerson Hollow, because it's not posted, I believe Kenny indicated that according to Mass DOT,
CV.
that's 35, like just based upon his knowledge of the road. That's what I remember was like.
I would say
but
it's
even-
40.
It just seems so
Right.
fast.
Well, exactly, because the
It's-
residents on the road, they were like,
yeah.
this is a dirt road, that seems like,
Yeah.
When it
that's
drops
really
to
fast.
35 is when it's thickly settled.
Mhm.
And you can't call Emerson Hollow Road thickly settled.
No,
So
But-
you can call Main Street thickly settled, Baptist Hill Road,
Mhm.
Upper Baptist Hill Road. Like, there's very few, that's why I've had this argument with many people. I'm like, if it's unposted, it goes to 40.
That's great.
Well, exactly, yes, because
Graves
Emerson's
Road
not
would be
posted,
40.
so.
40, yeah. So
Yeah.
If it's not
Emerson would be
posted,
40.
so I looked into a sign, I talked to Veronique about it. You can pass this thing through the state, where if the select board okays it, is you can say it's 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted.
Mhm.
I'm like, that would be great, we get less signs, post them every road coming in,
Right.
but that doesn't apply to us.
Mhm.
It's only for thickly settled.
So,
The majority of Conway is not thickly settled, and
Yeah.
right, so, yeah, that was kind of, that
So,
was kind
kind
of
of
Kenny's
defeats
takeaway,
that.
was like, we really can't.
They don't include wildlife? We're thickly settled with wildlife.
And like Elm Street's posted, but it's definitely not a legitimate posting.
Mhm.
Somebody decided that they wanted to say, here's the speed limit on this road.
Does the town, do we actually, like, if we as a town wanted to do that, like, is that within our jurisdiction to?
So you guys can request it, and then, I don't know all the hoops through this, but it's gotta be through Mass DOT.
Okay,
And in Mass
yeah.
DOT, back in the day, we used to have to put in like an unmarked person
Mhm.
with a radar and just monitor it for like X amount of hours. And then you give those speeds to Mass DOT, they do their little study and they go, here it is.
Mhm.
So they take like the average and then take the road conditions.
Oh, that's right.
And there's a
That-
risk that you
Yeah.
actually end
Yeah.
up with a higher
With
speed.
a
limit.
higher-
Exactly,
right.
yeah,
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you may want it 20, we had a guy in Whately, you wanted it 20.
And they were like,
But
45.
they weren't going as
Yeah,
fast
right.
as they thought when they put the speed sign or speed
Yeah.
trailer up by his house.
So it sounds like this traffic study that FERCog's going to do for free would be that's going to yield some beneficial data.
And I think we should
What
do
do
it
we
every
do?
time they offer it.
Yeah.
So we get to choose the road?
Mm-hmm.
It says on here, road name. Okay, is there any particular road you'd like to choose?
Problem is I can't narrow it down.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Well, just pull one.
I mean, how about
Just
Shelburne
start with
Falls
one.
Road,
Talk
you just
with
said?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was
But the
gonna
other
say
thing too is
Shelburne
this
Falls.
doesn't do, it only does one area.
Yeah,
So that's one thing we gotta keep in mind, is it's only gonna measure speed in one area.
yeah.
Do you know what? It just occurred to me, if we did Shelburne Falls Road and we're trying to get grant money for the embankments, it would be helpful to have this data.
At least a number counted.
Yeah. That wouldn't be
That's
bad
a
to have in
that's
our
a
back
good
pocket.
idea,
And
yeah.
that is like one of our main arteries in
Right.
town.
And if you put it by Emerson Hollow Road,
Yeah.
it's pretty neat the way they do
Yeah,
it.
no point doing Bardwell's. Can't go anywhere.
Put it right at the bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
There's only one ATV that went by.
That was a good idea, Veronique. I think that's a good
Yeah.
plan. Okay,
Cool. I'll talk.
All right.
all right.
Sounds good.
And then, wait, it says a vote.
Well, just that you're saying, yes, we're gonna request the traffic
We
study.
didn't vote on the car show.
Oh,
Yeah, so I move that we support the
I don't have a name for it.
car cruise show on Main Street on Saturday, the Saturday before Festival of the Hills. And, we should do that first.
Aye.
Okay. And I also, I move that we sign this contract with FERCog for a free traffic study of, I believe you decided on Shelburne Falls Road.
Let's do Shelburne Falls Road for the 24-hour count, and I will second.
Can I make request a clarification, instead of saying the Saturday before the Festival of the Hills, which implies the weekend
You're right,
before?
that's first.
I would say the Saturday
This-
of the
Oh.
weekend.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, well, the writing on our
Yeah.
agenda is,
sorry.
The Saturday, the same weekend of the festival. I was gonna say the festival's actually Sunday. To me, it's always
It is
Monday.
technically the Saturday before
is
because
technically,
it's on
yeah.
Sunday.
But it does get confusing.
Yes, it is, very.
And that whole weekend is just an enormous.
Okay, so Shelburne Falls Road.
Phyllis, do you want to open your committee and so we can get
Yeah.
to the next one?
Yeah, so I'm going to move to open a meeting of the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Don.
Oh, we have one more thing.
Oh, sorry.
You're open, that's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's one more, oh, gosh, sorry, I'm leaking. There's one more thing that, well, we're in jingle. While Don's here, I was hoping we could just review, because I misunderstood when Don came to me about the salary request increase for the police officers. He gave us a range, but now we have a recommendation, so let me just share my screen real quick.
I am still learning this process, so. I will-
Yeah.
We all are,
I will
yeah.
no longer give you guys like options. I'll just say, well, this is what I'm asking for.
So originally what had been in here was the 2444, because that was my misunderstanding. I thought that's what was being asked for, but this is actually what Chief Bates had given us here for the range based on the other communities. Now, understand that this was last year, and you can see Shelburne's.
Sorry, can you zoom in? I'm sorry.
Oh, I can try.
So all of the numbers that I did for the average,
There you go.
those are
Thank you.
all,
Oops.
oh, I'm gonna get sick.
Sorry.
All of those numbers with the average, that falls under either FY24 or FY25 numbers.
Mhm.
So they're not up-to-date numbers. The only one I
Well,
got
they're
that's
25.
accurate is Shelburne, and he's putting in a request to go up to 2885. Whether that's gonna be approved or not, I believe it will be, from what I'm understanding.
But 2340 was their best 25
That's, yes.
number?
So they're going up. So I just did the average of 2488. The 2251, that's what we are paying our officers now. Okay, under the PT officer rate.
Mhm.
2444 came from Veronique looking through FERCog and FERCog saying that we're paying our officers 2444 an hour. That was misinformation that was given to FERCog, and it has since been corrected. So that's where that number came from. I just wanted to throw it in there because that's the number she gave me. I was recommending anywhere from 25, 26, or 27, and those were what they added up to. And I believe when I came, I kind of put it on you guys to decide, which I guess was silly of me, and I apologize. So that being said, I would aim for 26.
Yeah, the Shelburne, that's over 20% increase.
To 26, it's 15.5.
The 2340 to 2885, that's 20%.
2251. to
No, he's
20
talking about Shelburne.
Shelburne, that's all I'm saying. But, okay, so your recommendation's 25? Or
26.
26?
I'm just taking the middle of the road.
I always like the middle of the road. I mean, yeah, this is something we've had to do with almost every single.
And I don't know the history of what part-timers have been paid prior to me getting here. I can only speak on what we've got and what I've been doing.
Do you know how much this will increase the budget?
Yes, so what I did was,
$63 million.
I put it in here as 26, so this is what it would be before COLA, and this is with, just as a placeholder, a 3% COLA, the lines.
But we wouldn't be doing both.
Yeah, because we would do either one or the other, right?
I was gonna
Right, but
say-
if you see, this is the same number. So it didn't go up by COLA because of that?
Huh?
What?
Sorry, am I the only one saying that?
No,
I'm
yeah.
confused.
Okay,
too.
so this one goes up by COLA because there's no added raise.
Right.
This one stays the same without COLA
Because it's,
because it's a raise.
okay.
So
Okay.
51,376 is the same under 3% and under regular
And that
because there's no,
represents $26 an hour?
yeah, see, it's 26
Okay.
times 38 times
Yeah.
52.
Yeah.
Because we have 38 hours altogether.
I'm looking for the math of what it would currently be.
With what we're
Is it
paying.
124,589 is the
Scroll back
current?
down. So right now at 2251,
Uh-huh.
the total is 44,479.76.
Okay, so about
So
7,000.
it's going up.
Mhm.
Sure, you're quick at math than I am.
Yeah.
And again, this is just my recommendation.
It's closer to 9,000 actually.
That's why I kind of gave you guys a range. But when I was talking with Veronique today, she's like, yeah, and I put it in for 2444. I'm like, whoops, I didn't ask her that. So we had so that's why we just wanted to come
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, at the end of the day, I will work with what you guys give me. So I'm not going to be pushy. I'm not going to be like heartbroken. I just,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't increase the bottom line that much because there's the COLA for,
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, I'm with you on saying we should be in the middle of the road. Because that's where we are in almost everything.
and I wish I could tell you what Whately was going up to. I forgot to ask him today when I talked to him.
I'm not surprised Shelburne's going up that much just because of what they have to cover.
Mhm.
Did Personnel committee have any
But I mean, look at
input?
Ashley.
Yeah,
The only thing that I ever get into concern about these things is getting into an arms race.
yeah.
yeah, for
That's-
sure.
Getting into a what?
But
Arms
arms
race.
race with other, you know,
Right.
And I could definitely see that. But
but we're in that position with just about any hourly wage in the town, truthfully. It's not just the police department.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to be above Ashfield because they haven't put in for their COLA, right? So we know that's going to be increasing. So I would take Dawn's recommendation.
26.
20.
Stephanie, do you have any comments?
No, excuse me, I agree with Chris. I would take his recommendation.
Okay. All right, I think personnel's ready to vote. I make a motion to increase,
To recommend to the
Rick-
select board.
recommend to select board to increase the hourly wage for the police department from the current rate of $22.51 to $26.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I will copy the motion of the personnel committee.
Second. Oh, do we have to vote on it now or do we vote on this all? I can't remember.
It doesn't hurt me at all to know that you voted on it, because then it's set in the
Okay, great.
omnibus
No,
for.
I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
I
unanimous. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your
And
service.
thank you, I do appreciate it.
Of course,
I'm glad we
appreciate
talked
you.
today.
Me too.
All right. Any more questions for the police department while I'm here?
No, you could go.
I've got nothing more to add. I know you had asked if anything's gone on. I don't
Adam, you're
even
the
listen
power
to
behind
him.
the phone.
Whenever you and Mike can get us that letter, we'll sign it.
Yeah, I'll probably talk with him on Wednesday, Wednesday or Thursday.
And like I said, it'd be a good idea to get in the Conway Currents too.
The deadline.
I need to get the permit first,
Oh, yeah, okay.
because if I can't get the permit, it's not worth going
Then
any
it's not-
further.
Yeah.
But I've got the map submitted already, and now I was gonna write out, I started writing out one for me,
Yeah.
and got interrupted.
All right,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Moving to the top of the agenda, the minutes, vote to approve the minutes, March 31st. I looked them over, they look good as always.
Great.
Thank you, Adam. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I guess I don't need to do that, sorry. On to the warrants. Also looked these over. Erica did as well. Nothing out of the ordinary, so I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable warrant in the amount of $84,656.64. The payroll warrant in the amount of $139,247.59. And the payroll deduction warrant in the amount of $34,238.16.
Second.
Thank you.
I didn't know if because Stephanie's here and your personnel committee's here, there was only one other thing, unless you had something else for the personnel agenda. If you wanted to do that so that Stephanie
No,
could.
I think you're to discuss the stipend.
Oh, yeah, there's the stipend. And, well, the COLA was the thing on the recommendation for the, remember there was the vote on the recommending a 3% COLA?
Yeah, I
The
mean,
select board.
we can move on to the joint meeting with finance if you want to open your
Call the
meeting.
finance committee meeting open. I make a motion to approve the March 31st meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so while Stephanie is here, did you want to move on to the second item there, review of the budget as a whole and recommend COLA?
Well, it was the joint meeting with personnel, and we did the police officer salary increase.
Right?
And they also had a vote on COLA. And I also let Phyllis know a little while ago that I've had another conversation with Mike about the stipend for the highway department. So I can update you on that, or you can.
So I have a question regarding the role that the personnel committee has with respect to COLA. So it's already part of the budget, right?
No.
No. Why would, if it's, what's the purpose of the personnel committee recommending a percentage?
Well, I
Why
mean,
wouldn't the select board and the finance committee just determine it if it applies across the board to individual employees?
Good question.
It seems to me that it's not necessary.
Yes, in
make
other
it a
words, personnel
personnel-
committee is really a policy
Yeah.
advisory
Yeah.
type of
Yeah, I agree.
I
body.
mean, it's a different matter when we were discussing a request for either an hourly increase or a salary increase, possibly plus
Right.
COLA. We've already agreed on that. But it seems to me that it's not particularly necessary. If COLA is going to apply in a particular year, there's nothing really for us to recommend.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
agree. We'll just take that off the plate then.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay, good.
I think this is our first year working with the personnel committee.
I
and
know.
The whole budget, so
Yeah, that's
we're
true.
working out the kinks, but thank you for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
And then you want to discuss the stipend?
Well, after speaking again with Mike today, my misunderstanding was that a stipend could not be put into snow and ice for this work, because snow and ice is already considered overtime, so you can't put in a stipend in overtime for that work, for this position. So, but you could do it under the regular highway budget. And actually, let me share my screen again, because I did put it in there just to show everybody what it would look like.
So basically, we could pay a stipend, but not out of that particular budget.
Right,
line.
right, and that was my misunderstanding, is that when I heard no, it was no for snow and ice, but not no overall. So as you can see, what I did here is I added in this line for a stipend and $6,000, which was the request, so you can consider that. The one thing I need to mention, two things I need to mention, you could have this recurring every year, and then say in April, the select board could say, was it a particularly awful year or a normal year or whatever, and decide whether or not to expend from that line. So it would be kind of like just in there in case. And then I guess you kind of have to decide what metrics do you use to decide if it was a bad year? You know, do you
Right.
get a number of call-outs or whatever?
That's not why, I don't think that's why a stipend has been requested. It wasn't the severity of storms, it was the lack of personnel and having the super do so much of the labor. And you can look at it in different ways. You can say, you know, there's gonna be one side that's gonna say, whose responsibility is it to make sure that we have enough personnel
Mm-hmm,
for that labor?
mm-hmm,
The super,
yes.
right? Or you can say, you know, maybe there were some factors that the super was not in control at the time, whether that was terminations that needed to happen, people that left without enough time to replace them, or other factors like broken down equipment or something, right?
Well, we don't know any of that I don't know any of that with respect to this amount. I don't
Yeah.
even know how many hours this is. I saw the formula as to how this was calculated, but I didn't see, you know, what the total number of hours were.
Yeah.
And to just go back to the point that I made at the last select board meeting, this is a normal part of a responsibility under that rule. So Personnel Committee did actually vote on this on our meeting on March 20th, when we were first under the assumption that it was a stipend that was going to come out of snow and ice. And it passed 2-1. I was the no vote. Stephanie and Alan were the yes vote.
Well, I just want to stay away from severity of years of storm because, you know, as was stated from council, it's like you have some years that are going to be heavier than others, and then it should kind of even out.
Well, so after last meeting, I was given the charge that you didn't want it to be in the salary, so you wanted me to find some other way to do it. So this is just an option if the
Right.
select board wished to do something.
Yeah.
You could put a line item in for a stipend. Just so you're aware, if you wanted to do something for FY25, you would have to have finance and select board vote a reserve fund transfer.
I guess why I was saying all of that is because I feel that we know that this year, in the past year, a lot of work was labor-intensive work, or the labor work was done by a supervisor.
Not related to snow and ice at all.
Well, no, that was also related.
But
That's-
but in general, just because of like
Yeah.
lack of staffing, I mean, that's kind of my concern is that like, you know, we know what the appropriate staffing level is. If the supervisor goes above and beyond his regular responsibilities because the department's not adequately staffed, which I don't believe is the fault of the superintendent at all, then do we compensate the superintendent because he's filling in for the staff that he doesn't have?
I guess
And that
I'm-
has nothing to do with what the weather's like or what the road conditions are like. It's just he's basically legitimately understaffed.
Can I just make one comment?
Yeah.
That incentivizes the highway superintendent to not be fully staffed.
Well,
Agree-
well,
yeah,
that's
agreed.
what I
So
was
that's- I
gonna
think that's why
say.
that's-
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I was gonna say. I don't want to see this as being something that it could be a line item that we could pull out at any given year. This should just be for this past year and not moving forward.
If that's the case, then again, I guess I would suggest that finance and select board decide on an amount and vote on it, and then it would be out of reserve fund.
One-time compensation.
One time for
One
this year,
time,
if that's what you
yeah.
want.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the other comment that I want to make, though, is the methodology used to arrive at the figure.
Yeah.
So that happened on an ad hoc basis without any consultation
Mm.
from anybody else in the town with respect to whether that was an appropriate formula to use to
Mhm.
determine this. and we still don't know the number of hours.
Oh, 100, it was 100 hours that was in there.
Okay, so it was,
Oops.
it was 100 hours, and it was an average of the, based on, getting this out of my memory now, it was an average that was based on the overtime hours of the hourly highway department employees?
Right, so here it is, the base pay, you know, his base pay, the OT rate, and then the number of hours times 100 hours, which was the average of what the crew was doing.
So why was it rounded up to 6,000 from 5,697?
I'm
Just to round it up?
I'm just
It's a
reporting what
placeholder.
was
Okay.
requested.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I guess my other observation would be, if you set this precedent and you agree that this is an appropriate thing to do, I would recommend that there's a formula or some objective criteria that is hopefully developed with the input from the finance committee
And personnel.
to standardize, and personnel to
Yeah.
standardize this, if you deem that it's an appropriate way to compensate someone for their time.
And if you take 79,000 divided by 40 hours a week, 52 weeks of the year, that's basically, I would come up with a figure of $3,800.
Well, that's what that is. It's, you always divide by 2080.
2080, right.
So that's
He's
the
getting time and a
figure.
half, right? We're giving him time and a half on the 100 hours?
So that's all I'm looking at is
Yeah.
let's look at
I mean-
660.
So whether it comes down to it, if you want to pay the supervisor more money, because every year it's going to be a wild
This
card.
feels like an end around on the overtime discussion that we had last
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not comfortable with this at all. Not for an exempt employee.
Mhm.
Now, you could have a contract, if you had an exempt employee on a contract, you could absolutely work out this type of
Yes.
thing in contract terms and conditions.
Yes, this is begging for a contract then for the highway supervisor, that's what I see. To just make something more formal and structured.
Yeah, it does seem like.
And the beauty of a contract is it's enforceable for both parties. And it removes a lot of ambiguity on these issues, because you never know if you're gonna be hit with this.
I mean, we voted multiple raises over the last years, right? I mean, we gave a raise to the part-time staff to help with staffing last year at this time. You guys gave another raise just a few months back to bump that up to, what are we, over 30?
$32.
32 is the max.
32, okay. So that's up, what, $8 an hour, $10 an hour over the
$10.
last year?
Yes.
For the staff, yes.
Yes, for the staff, right, which was supposed to incentivize hiring.
And retention.
And the reason we wanted to do that was so that Ron would hire to his needs and not spend all the time out in the
Which
field.
he's done. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
effectively?
But we're still understaffed.
We're understaffed because he doesn't have his clerk yet, and he doesn't have the buildings and grounds maintenance technician, but that is a different salary than, that doesn't go up to 32 because it's not a CDL
But we're
position.
talking about snow clearance, we're not talking
I know,
about-
I'm just saying
Yeah,
that
yeah.
for what he can afford in the budget right now, he is fully staffed with CDL drivers.
Mhm.
Next year's budget includes the fourth one that got taken out because he couldn't afford the pay raise under FY25's budget.
Okay, which is
Yeah,
fine. Okay,
yeah, so
okay.
he's got as many CDLs as he
Okay,
can
so
do under his budget
just,
right now.
okay,
Yeah,
all right, well, that's good news.
yeah, yeah. And believe me, I think the 32 an hour made a huge difference in
Mhm.
being able to hire.
I would argue based on the conversation that we just had in these few minutes, is that one of the criteria is to make this applicable, even if there's no contract, highway superintendent contract, which I personally would advocate, then there has to be some baseline. There's a trigger. So there's a trigger when this can be considered. Like, in that winter, we were down two employees, or some. There has to be a trigger and a baseline, and then there has to be, which is usually called, I think, a de minimis, and then there also has to be, a formula for the payout to consider. And then it's an objective formula. Everybody knows what it is. It's not determined on an ad hoc basis.
So is everyone agreed that I will then take out the stipend line that I'd added?
You want a formal vote?
No, I just threw that in. There was no vote to put it in. I wanted to put it in to show. There was no vote to do it. I just wanted to be able to show you what the spreadsheet would look like with that in there. But that's what I think I'm hearing, is that that stipend line comes out, and if you want to do it for this year, and you could do that every year going forward, that could be the solution, is that you do something from a reserve fund transfer. If it was a really.
Well, but I mean, I think to Phyllis's point, I do think that it needs to be more
We're
like
doing it
formulaic
formal? Yeah,
than this.
more formal,
Yeah,
yes.
it needs to, I mean, because,
I also don't think that you should, I don't know, it's so messy, because we're using a super salary and finding an hourly pay for that high salary, and then,
For an exempt employee.
For an
Yeah, and also he's not
Which is
working,
where I
and he's not
have
working,
always-
and he's not working as a supervisor, he's working as an hourly person.
and I've always had that issue.
Yeah,
is the
and by
exempt
doing this, we're setting a
part.
precedent.
Exempt, the definition
Yes.
of exempt.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, not only that, but all 100 hours are for time and a half, every single 100 hour of that 100, on a high
Yeah.
salary.
This is documented on timesheets?
So that's the problem, is like, how do we know?
No, Ron does not document his hours because he's exempt.
Okay, well, we're
Yeah.
undocumented 100 hours.
That was the average of the staff.
Oh, so that's how we came to that
That's not his,
figure.
that's the
Oh.
staff hours that he was taking. And so what they had, and he said it was a low average, because I think a couple of weekends ago, he said they were out for 45 hours. So 100 hours over a season
Yeah,
is
okay.
not that much,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know. And then extrapolated it based on his OT.
I do have another suggestion. If you would consider it, you could always make a decision with respect to the request for this year, but then say one of the contingencies upon doing this is a contract, because that's the only way to really address it in a way that doesn't set an adverse precedent for the other exempt salaried employees in the town.
Mhm.
Or for a replacement,
Yeah,
when it eventually comes.
yes, exactly.
And how many contracted employees do we have right now? 2, right? Yeah.
Now, I remember last year we were looking at, and Veronique, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there are other highway superintendents who
Who are
are under
contracted,
contract.
yeah.
And there, in other towns, there are other highway superintendents that are on an hourly rate. So the precedent is, the landscape is kind of,
It's all over the map when it
Yeah.
comes to
But
highway
we're mixing
service.
and matching, and that's not a comfortable place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, I think Phyllis's suggestion is a really good compromise, actually,
Yeah.
is to agree for a one-time stipend to compensate past work, but then going forward, to set a precedent that, that we're not gonna do this on an ad hoc basis anymore,
Yes.
that it's gonna be,
Yeah.
Well, we're saying,
Formulaic.
and it's gonna be, we're gonna have to form a contract between the town and the highway supervisor position, superintendent.
That would be a discussion for, going forward. I guess, oh goodness, would that be something you'd want to have done in a fiscal year? Ugh.
I don't believe it would be it would be a contract that would be effective in
July 1st next year.
yeah.
I think it would have to be July 1st, 27.
Yes,
agree.
yes,
Right.
yes,
Right.
exactly.
July 1st, 27?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, because we're,
we're in 26, we're going
Yeah,
into
26.
26.
Yeah.
This is 26 budget and if, yeah.
That's gonna take a lot of work to negotiate.
Yeah, you can't get that done in 2 months.
No,
Especially
no,
not
I
with town
agree. You
meeting.
can't.
agreed.
are there any legal considerations we need to take into account? I mean, turning a position that's not currently contracted into a
Yeah, I mean, those are all things I'd have to,
Yeah.
just research and chat with town council
So far,
about that.
nothing.
Because I know it
So
is,
far,
like you
zero.
said, all over the map, the way
Yes.
people are.
I mean,
Yes.
you know, because I've told you plenty of times, but still, you do not write a contract for a person already in a position or somebody you want in a position. You write it for the position.
For the
Right.
position, right,
Yeah.
yes.
So I just want to make sure.
Mhm.
I do think Phyllis's idea is a good idea,
Mhm.
and that's why I'm so cautious of this. I have no doubt that our super probably work beyond those hours that are listed there.
Absolutely.
I have no
Right.
doubt about that.
Right.
Well, this is not
It's-
paying him for the hours of his staff, and he gets
Yeah.
some type of formulation based on all this, which, that's part of what we'll have to negotiate. I mean, how do we figure out remuneration?
Right.
So then my question for finance and select board is, did you want to do the 1 year for FY '25? If so, how do you want to determine what the amount is? And then, did you want to set up a reserve fund transfer?
Yeah, the determination of the amount's gonna be extremely difficult because we probably don't have any information to get to that amount. I'm sure there's no hours really logged or listed.
Not for him, but definitely for the rest of the staff.
Yeah,
And
and
since he's out at the same time as the rest of the staff,
Yeah, okay,
you could back into it that way.
okay,
Yeah.
got it,
Mhm.
that'll work.
And if it's a reserve fund transfer, is this something that has to be voted on at town meeting? Or
No.
can we all right,
No.
so we can just,
It can just be at one of your upcoming meetings. And
So we have agreed to 6,000, or are we still figuring out the number?
I mean, if
I
they
think
have
it's a matter of
if there's a
verifying the
formula.
number.
If there's a formula, you should stick with the formula,
Yeah.
not,
Well,
and
do we
not
have, we don't
say.
have a formula.
There was on the bottom of the sheet there.
Well, if
Right.
that's the formula we said, but my thought is we have 100 hours of overtime. That's what was paid to the hourly workers, not to Ron. That's the hours of overtime.
That's,
Right,
that's
so the
the,
assumption
And
is that
my
he
question
was
then would be,
also-
based on staff hours, what days there are, and how many hours he worked, and figure out that way. So we can, that's a formula, right? I think that's a lot more of a tangible metric.
Well, anytime the staff is out, he's out.
yeah, so.
Yeah, but how many payroll hours is that represent?
Right, so what I can do is I can go back and talk to Jan and Lori and find out how
Yeah.
much OT was done, and then come back to you, just for this past
And then we can have
season.
as a
Yeah,
basis.
Because you're only
going-
talking about this past season.
we can have as
Yeah.
a basis going forward for payroll, what's the formula between what payroll hours are logged to the overtime to the hourly workers, and then we figure out what,
Well,
some
going
metric that
forward, I
Ron
guess
could
we're
agree.
gonna look into a contract anyway, right, so.
well,
Right,
this is all
but
part
you
of
could
letting
write
them know.
that formula
Write
into the
formula
contract.
into-
I mean, we're paying
Or
a
it
stipend,
could be
or
used
we're
as a
saying the
baseline for
contract they
some
don't
other
have. So
Yeah.
there's two things ideally that would be ideal, which would be, we would have a contract that's negotiated doing this, and then we'd have a figure. We have neither at this point,
Right.
so we're still exploring. It's not big bucks, but, it's still the precedent that we're looking at for the position.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, the amount that comes in from just this past season may well be more than 100 hours.
Yeah.
Then you have to decide whether you're going with the OT rate.
Well,
Because
that's
there
what
is no
we'll,
OT rate.
that's what we'll
Yeah.
decide when we get
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but like in this conversation, we've said, think about what we've said. How many hours did he actually do? Oh, he's exempt. He doesn't log his hours.
Correct.
Yeah,
But then,
we have a proxy.
and then we have a proxy, exactly.
yeah,
So it's one or the other, right?
yeah.
Anyway,
No,
So we're making headway on both.
So I was willing to say that it sounds like more data will be forthcoming.
Mm,
And I would recommend that there's another joint meeting between finance and personnel and select board like there is today, so we can all discuss it at a
Yeah.
select board meeting. and
Yeah,
make
it's part of
decisions.
basis of determining a contract going forward that we agree the town needs to have for the position of highway superintendent.
yep.
So the information we're looking at would be, I would appreciate would be that we can have the total number of hours of overtime and the number of estimated hours that formulates to the highway superintendent actually being physically present to work. There's gotta be some way we can track that, so that way, we go to town meeting and then we have it, it's concrete, and that's that. Then we have to figure out an hourly rate. Regular base
You
of
know what? What
$37.98.
I was thinking of, because I was reading
56
through
cents.
non-exempt and exempt, and when you would have a non-exempt employee doing an exempt position and vice versa, there's a stipulation in there about the rate. So if a exempt employee does a non-exempt employee's job, I thought I read that they should be at that rate
Yeah, I would agree.
of the,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the,
you mean
Yes.
at the, would be a lower rate?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct, the
That's
CDL
correct.
driver rate.
yeah.
Mhm,
I gotta look that up again, but I'm pretty sure I read that.
mhm.
In the state statute?
Yes.
And that's the
Oh,
kind
that's
of,
interesting.
and that's the kind of thing you would put in a contract,
In the
because there would be
Yeah.
a citation
Yes.
to the applicable statute.
Right.
And then you would either have a formula to determine what that compensation would be for
Mm.
that fiscal year, and then you might even have labor rate categories for the other hourly positions that are managed by the highway superintendent, and that would be in the contract.
That would-
So the
yeah.
only thing
snow and ice
I will
budget.
need to, excuse me, check with town council, only because
Yeah.
again, we're actually basically talking about paying an exempt employee overtime
That's it.
in a contract.
That sounds
So
incorporeal.
that issue I definitely need to just kind of
Yeah,
flesh
the
out.
metric, how we go about doing it.
Yeah.
And what
if
it's
possible.
actually
If it's
called.
possible,
I mean,
yeah.
that's what we're calling it in our conversation. I don't know what
Yeah,
what
I
you
mean,
would-
but if it's a stipend,
Based on OT, so this is where
Right.
it gets funky.
Well, typically you'll have, in whatever clause, in whatever terms and conditions are in that clause that will apply to this, there will be lots of capitalized terms that will define what all of these things mean.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you're putting a formula into a contract
Mm-hmm.
that basically says these are the number of, this is the formula for your working more basically overtime and getting compensated for it in a contract with an exempt employee.
You wouldn't call it, you wouldn't use those same, you wouldn't use those same definitions as cap terms. You don't have to do that in a contract.
I understand that. I'm just saying legally, if that's what's basically happening, I
Mhm.
just need to make sure that it passes muster with the accountant, with the treasurer and town
Mhm.
council.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This just sounds like a complete mess. I mean, can't it be done, this is your salary per week from July 1st till November 15th, and from November 15th to, let's say, April 15th, this is your salary. End of story. Why do you have to?
Doesn't
because-
solve the problem, Roy.
What's that?
It doesn't solve the problem
Why?
because it varies from season to season.
I don't.
So it's not every winter's the same.
Yeah, but I don't think I can't even imagine this contract, to be honest. I just
Oh,
can't
I can.
imagine it. What's that?
I can. Oh, I absolutely can.
You can.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
exempt employee,
I think the thing to put aside, because this is still very early days, is we're talking about this based on our understanding of the way the world is now with respect to this role in the town. And the way that role is defined in terms of the financial relationship and the compensation relationship between that employee and the town is changing as we're discussing this. So whatever is in your head now about the way you understand it, eventually, the way this will be played out in contract terms and conditions will address some of this somehow, presuming, Veronique can get some guidance and advice from town council about how to approach this problem.
well,
You
I'm
can't
not
put the
an
cart
attorney.
ahead of the horse.
It's just, to me, it's nickels and dimes if you want to account for every hour. And yes, given there's some variability season to season, but I almost think that it's,
Well, the other thing we're trying to do is we're trying to not be in a position every year of always have this surprise, like some different special request.
the only surprise would be that, guys, it's like January and I've worked 300 hours, there are 300 hours a week, but I've worked X, and but that has to be understood in the contract. That's what exempt.
That's why we're talking about a contract.
Yeah, well,
That's exactly
It's in the
why.
job description now.
Yeah.
but it's not, I mean, for me, it's also making this, like, we want to make working for the town an attractive position. And I think whatever arrangements in the past, compensated for overtime. I mean, I think all our highway bosses, obviously, all of them have put in way more hours than they're compensated for. If you're an exempt employee, like your salary is your salary, and that's kind of like, the expectation. I'm an exempt employee where I work, and the expectation is
Yeah, me too.
you
I've always
you
been
put
one.
in you put in the hours that the job requires, and some weeks I work way more than like other weeks, but you just do what has to get done. But I don't have a contract. I'm just an exempt employee,
Yeah.
So I think you want to have this position where this is a good job, and you're going to have a base salary that's attractive, and some years it's going to be you're going to have to put in more hours, and if you do, we're going to compensate you for that.
And I think to Chris's point, the discussion should have nothing to do with current employees, should all be about the position.
Exactly.
One
It's-
that
we
you
want the
contract.
Right.
position to be attractive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want.
So why isn't the position just an hourly position?
Some towns do that.
Some towns do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I don't know, it changed at some point in the past.
If our super was paid hourly, he'd be making $1 million a year.
Well, you have, well,
Yeah.
okay, so it's advantageous to the town
Yes.
with this particular employee
Yes.
to have it be.
No, I
Well,
think
we
with
work
this
for any-
particular position, I think to have, it's advantageous
Well-
to the town to have a contract, to outline the scope of work and to say that if you do go above and beyond, we're
And it's
gonna-
also advantageous to a highway superintendent.
Exactly. I mean,
Because
it's,
all the ambiguity is removed. What does the contract say?
right.
We perform to the contract.
Okay, I will,
Clear as mud?
Thank
I will
you.
research and come back with
More information.
more questions and more information.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Phyllis, did you want to close the
Yes,
personnel?
yes. Motion to adjourn,
Second,
adjourned.
Thank you so much, Personnel
I didn't realize
Committee.
you were in the personnel committee.
well, it's a joint.
Scratch everything. I said.
So we'll move on to
Scratch
the
every word.
joint meeting with the Finance Committee, who already called themselves to order. So, on the discussion, I'm sorry, the top of the discussion, or the budget updates will start with TA at 1:50.
So all I'm doing here is letting you know about the changes that have been at least approved to put in the omnibus. So I know that both the Personnel Committee and the Select Board approved moving the assistant position to 30 hours a week.
Yes.
My contract was just renegotiated, so I just wanted everybody to be aware that this is the new contract amount in here. So really, it's really just a review. If there's been changes, I want to make sure everybody is made aware that they are changed. So. Any questions on that one? No? Okay. How about if I save IT for last, because that's a little bit more of a discussion. So property insurance, I just wanted to, well, it's not just property, but, so this line, where am I? This one right here. Chief Baker and Chief Bates and I met with Jonathan Finn, who's a representative from VFIS, and who the town had switched to a number of years ago to cover fire, police, EMT. And the numbers had been kind of lagging behind, so we got an extra quote, which bumped up the amount that would be paid out, excuse me, in the event that something happened. So it went up a little bit from their quote to 12,143. That was the only difference here. And I did go through, John, I remember you in particular were wondering what was going on with why these budget numbers were split three ways, and it got a little confused between Mike and I, but these are the numbers that are real now. This is how much it's for general liability, workers' comp. We don't have any professional insurance. I don't even know what that meant here. So I just took the line out. But anyway, so that's the update with that one. Let's see, we did police. So transfer station. I don't know that there was too much with the transfer station. Sorry, they're so busy here.
Does this include their increase as well?
Yeah, yeah. So it just includes the increase for the transfer station. And then a couple of things I probably went over already with the compost going up a little bit. And, you know, these were all pretty well set numbers. So it's a little frustrating that it's going up $10,000, even though we are reducing. I just got the bulky waste bill for this month. It's a $30 rental fee.
Awesome.
Because we're not doing, you know, but the problem is,
I mean, think of how bad this would be if we didn't have.
Right, I know, I
That's
think
the
we need to
point.
project like how big an increase this would have been.
it would have been if,
Yeah.
so what I guess I need to get with Jan and doing the tonnages to do the tonnage comparison. Because, yeah, as you're saying, the price of everything goes up, so,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, that's why a huge reason why we even
I
changed
know,
everything
but
is
that
because we
would
knew
be-
the prices.
Just to
were
have
going
those numbers when we put together the warrant light,
Yeah, Yeah.
would be really helpful, I think.
yeah. Okay, so that's those, and then SourcePass did update their quote, which, sorry?
No, I just remember in that meeting where the sales guy just wanted to do his pitch.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So nothing really has changed, but I remember finance pointed out that in the migration to, well, let me start with this. So this number is still the same. It's still 3,314 per month. So that's still the number that would be for the contracted services for managing their MSP services. That's how much that would cost. This line, the software and subscriptions, went up a little bit because you guys had caught earlier that in the migration, you know, that the one-time expense that we're paying, there were two things that seemed to be recurring. One was Cisco, one was Microsoft. The Microsoft is recurring. I took it out of their proposal and I put it in where I think it belongs, which it always was, which was here under, so everything that's here, I don't know if you can see that too well, but everything that's here, the 1.6, that is in our software and subscriptions.
Oh,
Okay, so that will be an annual fee, so the Microsoft is now in there. The Cisco, I learned, is actually a one-time fee.
oh,
It's a 3-year,
well, it's a one-time fee, it's paid once every 3 years, is that
So
right?
it might be once every 3 years, but it's gonna be different, as he said, in 3 years. Sorry?
did their updated quote take into account Roy's question about those, what did you call them, those mailboxes that were
Yes,
like not?
yes, we did
The, I don't know.
the extra, yes. And so we went through over all the ones, the kiosk ones you were mentioning,
Kiosk,
yes.
right, that's
So
right.
what I did is I went back and I did all of the email addresses that we have for the town that we use for our EOTS grant, and we're doing cybersecurity. And I sent them that whole spreadsheet, and they had it sorted out by whether or not that email address needed, you know, all the
yeah.
Microsoft or just the basic. And then, of course, Microsoft just upped their prices on April 1st, so, but,
They may update again before the year is
yeah,
out.
yeah, moving target, yeah.
They do what they do. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, so, but those were included.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you, Roy, for pointing that out, so that was the update on that. It, you know, it still looks pretty good for, you know, Roy's done such a good job of keeping everything
Yes, you
well
did,
under budget.
I know, for
Yes, you did.
years.
Well,
All right, let's look at the budget as a whole.
Okay, so.
1,000 tabs.
This is my life.
hmm.
Okay, Article 2,
Are we looking at Article 2 with the COLA?
with 3%, do you
Yeah.
want to just do Article 2 or with the COLA?
With the COLA.
With the COLA. Okay. All right, so everything up here, and you all should have this. Everything up here, you know, are all the budgets we've gone through, I can change that because we've now done IT. So this is the bottom line here for the general fund increase, which, as you can see, is really big for,
Yeah.
yeah, let me see if I can make that a little bigger.
You don't have this,
Is it on here?
No, this is a working copy. right?
So without the COLA, it's 4.87, and with it's 5.47, and that's how much the difference is with the COLA.
COLA's like negligible.
So you have a different version of the spreadsheet, it
Yes.
looks like, than was
You've
sent
got
out.
updates, because you haven't updated us over the last week. and-
No, we got a new
I
one
just sent it today.
But it's not
You
the same,
did?
no, the numbers aren't the
I
same.
didn't get it. Let me check my spam.
It doesn't matter, it's not the most current version.
Oh, you know
You
why?
made some changes.
I just made it with the police department while we were,
Yeah,
that's
all
the
that.
one you didn't,
Yeah,
I didn't put 26 in with the one I sent
Yeah.
you. That's why it's different.
Mhm.
That's the only difference.
What, do we have the historical percentage increases? I see the numbers, but do we have the percent? I mean, that's a calculation.
This year, it's completely flipped, because look at that, the overall is 1.16, normally, let's see, last year, the overall was 2.96.
Okay. So the overall is lower, but okay.
Yeah, and it's flipped, because normally it's the schools that's a higher
Yeah, but
percentage,
because
the
of
general is
Frontier.
way lower.
Yeah.
This year, it's like completely different, so, and again, I wouldn't mind if somebody wants to review this and just make sure that all my ducks are
Well, you
in a
didn't
row.
change any formulas on this page, right?
Oh, I didn't change any formulas, no.
Okay.
No. So what happened is, because they're all updated.
I reviewed it all 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't change any formulas for sure. But, like I said, the difference must be because I just updated the police and changed that. That's probably why it's, because it doesn't look very different to me from what it was. Yeah, 4.87, 1.16, okay. That's my double check to make sure.
Wow,
I know.
thank you, Frontier. Good lord.
This year.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but also, I mean, look, it's been 2 years, but look how much it was for Smith Voc was 52 grand right there.
Yeah.
You know, so if we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Anymore,
Well, I mean,
until next year.
yeah.
Well, no, didn't he say that they have the new program now at Franklin?
Yeah, but, you know, school choice.
So-
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Right, so at Franklin, if, they can only go to Smith Voc if there's nothing offered at Franklin. That-
Okay.
So now that they have that there, I think, I'm hoping
No, yeah.
that that's the case.
I think you're right.
Anyway, yeah, so that's the
But
overall.
then you're just adding another, what, 21,000 for Franklin County? If you had a student that would have gone
Right,
and they're, so
Right, and
it's
it's-
not
yeah,
a
it's like-
complete 52,000,
Yeah, right.
you know, savings, you know.
right. Well, that amount was half transportation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And half.
Yes, it was. 17.
That's what drives me crazy.
I know, I
It
know.
really does, that damn formula.
All right. So are folks good with me leaving a 3% COLA? Is that, we didn't vote on a COLA, but I didn't put down a vote tonight,
Yeah,
but I just want to
yes.
make sure that, you know, you don't want me to go back in and
What
throw
was our
some other
COLA
amount.
last year? Did we do 3 or 2.5?
I was-
Higher.
No, we did 5.
We had
No, wait, we did
five.
5 last year, we
Yeah.
did 3 the year before.
Right, so I personally think we should stick with 3 because the next few years might be
Yeah.
really rough.
Yeah,
Well, and the other thing that I had said, but I don't know how it's played out yet, is if the COLA that the school unions are getting be the same as what town people are getting. But I don't know what that is yet.
well, I don't think that's a mindset that I think just we can move past because they have step-ups and things that we don't offer.
Yeah, I agree.
I know, but that's why I'm saying that it should be at least what the unions are getting.
Again, I don't want to even get
Okay.
involved with the union, that's their business. I mean, yeah, this
Is it set?
I think our placeholder should be 3%.
Yeah, that's
I
it.
agree.
Okay, all right. Great. Was it last year we did 2.5
Is it set?
and 2 another?
Yeah.
No, that- I
Yeah, we
thought
did
that
it
was
with
the year
phases.
before.
One
Four,
one year we
5%
did like
growth.
2.5.
No,
We did
last-
2.5 and
There
then
was
2.5.
5%.
Last year was 5.
It was 5,
Yeah,
yes.
Because we could afford
Because
it.
we could afford it,
That's
remember? Mhm.
Yeah, but I know, but in
Five.
previous years, I
Yeah.
remember we did a 2.5.
Yeah,
that
they
was-
reached an agreement last week.
Yeah, we did 5.
Yeah.
3% for them. Plus step-up.
Oh.
Because remember the difference between 3 and 5
I
is
know,
so
and that's right, because
negligible?
you know why? Because I did 2, 3, 4, 5,
Right.
6, and 7.
Yeah, we did a whole scenario last year, it was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
unusual, it was ridiculous.
We put you through hell.
That's when we were also trying to look at, you know, the healthcare to do 70, 80, 90.
Yeah.
Right,
100%.
100, that's right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you scroll up, Veronica? I just want to see what the biggest, where's the biggest thing? Okay, we'll go back down to 212%. Did I see that? Can you scroll
Oh,
down?
for
Sorry,
the
what are you
percentage
looking for?
change? She's looking for the
I'm
highest
just looking at
percentage
the
change.
percentage change. I'm just want to
So
see what's.
you could
Oh.
filter the top line and then sort
Yeah.
by the highest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Where's my phone?
Conservation Commission?
Oh, I'm going to
Yeah,
show
No,
you
the percentage with
K. You're talking about K?
Oh, you want this one?
No, column K.
column K. Yeah, I want to
Oh,
see.
you want
yeah,
K.
wait,
Yeah.
oh, what's the
Sorry,
highest
sorry,
percentage
sorry.
change? Where?
It
Why?
comes-
What's the expense?
It's going to be
greatest?
that too.
Sort.
No, come on.
Smallest to largest. Expand the selection.
No. Can I show you?
Yeah, yeah, you can
Planning
try
board and,
it.
planning board and Concom.
Yeah,
But to filter it, they just want to know if I want to expand the selection, which I do, so that it
Oh,
includes it.
you already did that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead. But I am going to show you tricks after this.
Okay. Hold on, new tricks. It's not gonna let me do that.
Oh, so I'll do it.
Because all the cells
doesn't
have to
matter.
be the same
Yeah,
size?
I'll show you.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll go over, go down, do this,
Oh, okay.
and then
Now, column.
There you go.
Okay, this
Make it bigger.
So hit control and just move this up like that. So I think there's stuff above this actually. I thought I saw 400 and something. Yeah. So what is that line?
That's
Yeah, why is that NA? Oh, that's sustainability because they're just being used this year.
Oh,
That's
God.
right.
There's no denominator in that
Yeah.
calculation.
Oh, so it is Concom.
And it's Concom and it's probably next planning board
Yeah,
because
planning board,
yeah.
those are the stipends.
Those are de minimis.
Let me do something else.
Okay.
Where in the world? Where's your freeze pane?
Oh,
Let me just do something.
it's up there in view. You just have to click view.
Oh, it is?
You just
good.
went by it.
I did?
Yep. It's under freeze panes. Here, so view, freeze panes.
There we go.
Okay. All right, so employee costs, that includes insurance, right? Is that,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
900 is our big line because that's all our benefits and everything.
yeah.
And that's a big increase. because
That's
of-
healthcare.
I mean, yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. Healthcare.
Basically, things that were changing here that are really, really big, or things, many, for the most part, that are kind of out of our control.
Exactly, yeah, it's, I mean, in that respect, like, what is it, 5.47?
Mhm.
Just like a negligible increase. At the same time, it's like significant,
Mhm.
it's significant.
Yeah. And the other thing to keep in mind is that this is then going forward. This, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? In other words.
Nothing gets cheaper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna,
Yeah. I mean, my thought is about the uncertainty of what could be from state aid and this and that. I mean, well, we cross the bridge when we get to it because,
It's going to be an interesting cherry sheet year.
yeah, well, and also the Department of Revenue, because back in the late 80s, early 90s, when there was a crash in the economy, not a market crash, an economic crash, that the Department of Revenue came down with directives. Basically, they directed us how things were to change. So
Okay.
it takes a lot of the burden off the Finance Committee, the Select Board, and other people in terms of how we are to make a methodology to change things. And back in the early 80s, early 90s, the state came down and just said, you have to reduce your budget across the board by 2.5%. And that was that. I don't know what you were saying to that. And that went for the schools too.
Well, that's it for Finance Committee, unless you all have anything else.
No, that's enough. Good. Next week, we thumb wrestle over capital expenditure items, or we want to push it out towards the 22nd?
Yeah, I was gonna go that way too.
So, I just want to remind you today is I'm going to be gone for the day.
Those are the days we should vote on the capital. Right?
Okay, so you want capital improvements on the schedule next week?
All preliminary discussion. I mean, if you go by your original budget agenda, by April 22nd, we wrap up. That seems kind of early, right?
Well, that was when the warrant closes.
Yeah.
So I need to have for you all the draft warrant, which I've got, but there's so many big things in there, like the FERPAG
Yeah.
charter change, which takes up 80 pages.
So April, we have to close up because we have to have everything done 45 days before June 7th, right? Has to go out to the printers and this and that for town meeting.
I gave it 30 days, so
30 days.
I gave you a couple of, I think it was May 4th or May 5th, whatever that
May 5th
Monday
is
is.
Monday.
Okay, so it's May 5th that it was like, it has to go to the printer then.
Okay.
Um,
We have to have a special meeting over outside of the Monday evening. I mean, maybe the week before, we have to meet twice to get things wrapped up. I don't know. I'll utilize, I propose that the Select Board would meet.
I don't
And
think
the
so.
Finance
We've got a
Committee, we
meeting
have
every
to.
week between now and then.
So you think we can actually wrap it up? Like May 5th would be the date to have final,
Right, so if I
everything's
have
done.
the draft warrant to you tomorrow with all the articles, we can, tomorrow. next
sometime
Monday.
Between now and Monday, 14th
Yeah.
of April.
So what I may do is, I mean, I already have them drafted and I have highlighted the things that I have questions about. I'll just send you that rather than all the, the bylaws and all that stuff, which we can do later because I don't even
Yeah.
have the finalized stuff. And then you could discuss the capital. The one thing I did want to point out, and I actually sent a query out to all the stand members, that given the uncertainty of these times and tariffs that are being imposed.
Yeah, going forward, the whole
we have
revenue
to-
projection.
We have to keep in mind whether or not we need to stick an extra 25% contingency on the amounts that we've already discussed. Because who knows, I mean, I've asked Ron just today if, he could kind of get updated quotes and maybe some thoughts from the vendors of where this is going. They're not gonna know either because
Yeah.
nobody knows,
Well,
but,
don't forget, we have to get all electric vehicles too.
so,
DOT?
so I said that, yeah.
Did they really? Wow.
Well, for new ones, yeah.
For new ones, yeah.
For new ones, but I don't even know that they're doing heavy equipment quite yet anyway. But yes, so I just wanted us to keep in mind that, what kind of percentage contingency do you want to put on in case,
Well, they're talking about capital budgeting and planning too, on top of individual equipment requests from the highway department this year that we would consider, right?
right, but
Like the
they're,
fire truck, the ambulance, I mean, these are things that potentially be higher than what we think.
yeah.
hope
I mean, basically, it's an unknown future, right? So it's
Yes.
just how do you plan for an unknown
Yeah,
future?
yeah, we can't, so, we'll
Yeah.
take it 1 year at a
We
time.
do it the same way we do it every year.
Yeah.
Where the future is unknown.
That's it.
Um,
I mean, who
You
knows if-
really knew the exact day of the
Crystal
week
ball.
that Cinco de Mayo was on. I'm really curious about that. What's going on
The
at your
4th of
house?
July was very
Are we
worrisome.
gonna talk about the grader tonight?
No,
Oh,
Okay, well, that's pretty,
the chair, I just put down the foot, no, I want to be
So
careful.
just so you know, Ron had a thought, which was to request whether or not the town could purchase a used grader. He was thinking just around $200,000 or so, and have it come out of the state disaster relief money that we still haven't finished expending. So I did talk with our accountant, and that would be something that would have to be approved by the select board and finance committee to put on a warrant, and that would be a
Yeah.
town meeting article.
Oh, yeah.
It would just be like a regular capital, but
and
that would be the way
a
to.
simple majority
I thought
vote.
we had all of that money pretty much allocated already, though.
Because it's
Well, the
coming out
problem that
of
has
the
come up,
stabilization fund.
yes, it's for materials, but if you can't get a grader,
You
the
can't
gravel's
really
not
do
gonna
it.
do any
Materials,
good.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
So
I
why
mean-
would, it has to get voted on at town meeting? That was money that the state already gave us, I thought.
it's money the state already gave us, but in doing this, because it's such a large capital outlay,
Okay.
the Mike was adamant
So
that it
there's some
needed to
state
be.
statute that Mike feels we want to follow, but we were not.
It's just good
Yeah.
policy.
It's good policy,
Mhm.
thank you, that's really what it comes down
Because
to.
the town's gonna have to just be prepared to explain this to the town and explain that this is not the operating budget. So on our warrant light, that this is not levy and appropriate,
Right.
this is
Alan,
completely
there's
outside
gonna be
that.
another capital
Is-
presentation, just like.
Is there a
was last
spend-by
year, so-
date on
But
these?
this is
funds?
outside the capital committee
No, you
too.
mean on the,
No, I
on the state
understand
funds?
that.
No.
Well, I don't know that it should be outside the
So-
capital committee.
It is a capital expense,
It is a
even
capital
regardless
expense.
of where it's coming,
It is.
where the
I
fund is
agree.
coming from.
the only thing I'll say on it is we might have two articles that would be in opposition of each other. Because we were talking about doing a stabilization or a
Mhm.
fund for the grader.
Well, you had put in for greater, what I said was that I don't want it to go for a particular piece of equipment. We should just start sucking money away because there's other big ticket items, namely, if you're looking at the capital budget expenditure item next year, a truck for $250,000. Hopefully it's not.
Well, the
more.
grader is 400 plus 450,000.
Well, I think we need more information.
Yeah.
We don't, saying we can get a used one for 200,000 and, well,
This is,
what about
this
all the
could-
other questions that
I
come
mean,
up?
there's only like cars right now, where,
Are we-
used cars right now just got sucked dry because of what's going on in the world, so who knows? But I also will say this, that we have special stabilization funds for the Conway Grammar School, obviously.
Mhm.
It's 60-something percent of our budget. The second largest budget item by category is the highway department.
Yeah.
And doesn't it make sense that the highway department should have its own special capitalization, stabilization fund? I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
did speak with Mike about that today, and he's, said absolutely, if you want it to be highway vehicle stabilization
Yeah,
fund,
yeah.
do that,
I
yeah.
think highway equipment, whatever purpose,
Yeah.
vehicle,
Yeah.
heavy equipment, whatever. Could be emergency repairs to a big piece of equipment. Remember years back, we had our grader needed a $50,000 repair. Thank goodness it turned out to be $35,000, but whatever.
But back to the grader, it seems that needs to go before you guys.
Yes.
But we only
Yeah.
found out about it today.
I know.
Right.
And then you can ask all your necessary
And
questions,
Laurie
like, are we
said you were
trading the
talking
old
about it.
grader
That's it.
in, or?
Right.
We're talking about the process, not the grader itself.
Yeah, well,
Right.
that'll be on our discussion.
And this just came up because, Ron thought, well, gosh, it really, that's another pot of money we might be able to make use of, and it makes sense because
Sure.
it's
Yeah,
taking money
course.
that, so.
I agree, there's an argument
Yeah.
that you should be able to consider that.
Yeah. Well, it's encouraging. I'm not going to get my hopes up too much just because he thinks versus we're actually seeing something which is that we can actually jump on between and won't be taken by next week.
Yeah, true. Okay, you want to adjourn?
Yep.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, 7:21.
And I
Okay.
just want to
To be
make,
continued.
Bottom of new business is discussion and vote on.
Phyllis,
just one, an availability issue. Nobody knows
Yes,
this, I
we're
just realized
done.
that John and I are going to be out of town and not available the 21st of April, Monday, and the 28th.
That's the date I'm not going to be available.
Well, that's
Okay.
Patriots Day.
We're gonna be in-
22nd.
we're gonna be in
we're
Chicago.
Yeah,
22nd, we're meeting.
I'll be on my.
Alan's got all this stuff, he says that's Patriots Day.
So
Well, we're going to be in
22nd,
Chicago. You want to do a,
You can zoom in
Oh, we're
from
in
Chicago.
we're in Chicago.
Yeah, okay, we're in Chicago.
You going to do a meeting from Chicago?
Yeah, if I'm not out
What dedication?
at the Guinness Brewery.
Oh, my, you can do it
And
from
then
there too.
on Monday,
Here.
the 28th, we're
Drive.
flying back from Chicago, so neither,
Okay.
we'll be out
I
of
mean,
pocket.
you and I are both gone the exact same
See what,
days.
thanks.
So that's a good
Same
time to
day?
discuss
Yeah.
the capital articles.
Yeah,
Make
yeah.
decisions.
I'll just take care of it all.
Well, we're
Don't
going
worry.
to our daughter's bridal shower, so I don't know
Oh.
what you're up to.
Honeymoon, a delayed honeymoon.
Same.
Wow. Well, there's
Happy
nothing better
days,
than
happy
honeymoon to
days.
talk about,
Yeah, right. Sorry, hon, I need to step away.
There could be a time zone.
Yeah, right.
I gotta talk about trucks.
What about yours?
Oh, did it go out? It doesn't matter, we have this.
Okay.
I know, but, nobody was on.
So, I'm sorry, new business, bottom of new business, discussion and vote on award of concrete pouring contract for public safety building vehicle bays. Okay, what's this about?
That's this. Oh, so we put out a request for quotes. Even though we knew it was going to be under $50,000, we had to do the whole process and get prevailing wages and all this stuff and post it on combis. Anyway, long story short,
Well, I think this is an easy one.
the list you have in front of you is all the people who requested the information and then the ones who actually gave us quotes. The
Yep.
lowest quote was from Maple
Maple
Road
Road Farm, which is doing our building.
Yep,
They've been
and-
doing a great job.
Public Buildings met that same day and voted to recommend to the select board to select Maple Road.
Well, I will make a motion to vote to award the contract for concrete pouring for public safety building vehicle bays to Maple Road Farm.
Second.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure there wasn't a place here.
Hope to sign.
Yeah.
Attended any meetings?
I did, actually. Thursday I had a meeting with GZA and a representative of the residents on Baptist Hill about our drainage project.
Mhm.
And we will have another meeting on Thursday with a larger group and with their engineer.
This
Bucky
Thursday?
Sokol. This Thursday. What I think I can't remember. Bucky's very busy. I
Yeah?
think it's
2 o'clock.
I mean, he's
2
got-
o'clock, yeah.
2 o'clock and he will be there at 2:15.
Yes,
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for doing that.
no problem.
I don't believe I had any. That can't be right.
No, that can't be right.
I probably had,
Nothing important, obviously.
yeah. Yeah, nothing. Public comments, no public comments. We don't have public comment, no unfinished business. Items not anticipated, none. TA updates.
Okay, so the town clerk wanted me to make a plea for folks to run for office. because there are positions that have no candidates whatsoever, Board of Assessors, Board of Health and Planning Board. So just to put that out there in case people want to run. I mentioned,
All are very important.
Yes.
They're all
All of
very-
those are very important.
yes,
They're pretty critical
Yeah.
yep.
positions.
The Open Space Committee is interested in making use of a small cities special revenue fund that we have. So I just wanted to make the board aware that there may be a warrant article coming up about whether or not to use these funds, just so you're aware. Mike and I have been researching and trying to figure out where these funds came from, when we just can't. We think it's probably something to do with CDBG, but this is back from the 90s. And so no matter what, any use of these funds is going to have to be approved through town meeting to reallocate them, unless you just decide you want to turn them back into free cash. But it's a lot of money.
How much?
43,419.58 is the current balance.
Mm.
And like I said, it's been on there for years. Anyway, so that may be coming up. The public buildings, the grant updates, those went in on Friday. Thank goodness for Green Communities and for MVP. And that, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to make sure.
I hate to ask this, but can we get kind of a breakdown of everything that is in the purview of open space, what we could actually spend it on?
Well, there is the open space plan, and it would make a lot of sense. There's a lot of work to be done in there,
Mhm.
so it would make sense for them to have a source of funding to be able to complete the open space
Okay,
work.
I got you, okay.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting to talk more with Janet about
Yeah.
what, how she wants it to be worded or whatever, but just so the board is aware, it can be used for any purpose you want to put
Like a
forward.
pavilion.
As long as town meeting approves it, yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but hopefully that will be coming forward soon. So that was, and so I didn't know if anybody else was going to be out. I assume, so that probably means the meeting on the 22nd. Maybe I should push that back 1 week and have it be
Yeah, I'm gonna be gone
for when
that
the
whole
warrant
week.
closes.
that
Yeah,
entire week, yeah.
yep.
Where are you guys going?
Castle Hot Springs.
Oh, is that in Arizona?
In Arizona,
Yeah, that's right, you
yeah.
said
I mean, that's why I build a little flexibility into the budget, I do
Yeah.
things, it's just because things happen, and so we might have to push things back, which is fine. So I can just bump it back, the warrant closes on the 28th if you want. and then-
Sure.
that. So do we have a poll hearing on the 14th?
Yes,
Okay.
5 o'clock on the 14th,
All right,
and
and
then,
then, so no meeting on the 21st?
no, the 22nd.
Oh, 22nd, okay,
22nd,
all right, so we're gonna move to the
The
22nd.
poll hearing is the one for Poland, right?
Main Poland and North Poland, yep,
That is, okay, at 5?
5 o'clock on the 14th.
Ooh, I'm glad you told me. Okay. Okay, thank you. Veronique. Comments, concerns?
Excuse me. None at the moment.
Did you see the trash I was talking about?
I didn't, and
No?
I
Man,
guess I'm.
I must have something wrong with me because
You're just-
I'm like, oh, there.
I was even, yeah,
No mail, no announcements. Next meeting, April 14th, we will have a poll hearing at 5 p.m. on that same day, prior to our meeting. Anything else? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you so much.